1 week. That is all that is left until Barcelona play their first competitive match of the season away at Elche on Sunday 23rd August. And right now, across every podcast, every YouTube channel, every pundit desk in Spain, everyone is telling the same story. Jose Mourinho is back at the Bernabeu, signed through 2029, 13 years after he left it. Real Madrid have torn the building down and started again after a trophyless season. Atletico Madrid are the team that knocked Barcelona out of 2 competitions in the same year and are still there. Still Simeone, still waiting. Villarreal finished 3rd. Everyone has a narrative. And Barcelona? Barcelona are the club everyone has quietly filed under flat-track bullies. They won La Liga by 8 points. 94 points, 31 wins, 95 goals, a 29th title sealed with a 2-0 win over Real Madrid at Camp Nou on 10th of May. They beat Madrid again in the Supercopa final. And the consensus verdict on all of it is 3 words. Yes, but Europe. 11 years without a Champions League. A quarter-final exit to Atletico, who finished 4th in Barcelona's own league. Robert Lewandowski, gone. Ferran Torres, sold. Ronald Araujo, the man who captained them to the title, loaned to Liverpool. No striker signed, no left-footed centre-back signed. Frenkie de Jong injured. The consensus is simple. They will win La Liga again and go out of Europe again. Same club, same ceiling, same May. And every single person saying that is walking right past the most important signing of the European summer. This is not a hot take. It is a case built on one statistic from last season that explains almost everything. Barcelona have just fixed the exact thing that broke them, and nobody has connected the two. Before we get to Rodri, transfers or Lewandowski, let's start with a number: 0. That is the number of clean sheets Barcelona kept in the 2025-26 Champions League. Not in the knockout rounds, not in the away games, in the entire competition. 12 matches, 12 times conceding, 0 shutouts. By the club's own published review of the campaign, Barca conceded 20 goals across those 12 games, an average of 1.67 per match, and identified defence as the area to address. Now put that beside the domestic number. In La Liga, across 38 matches, Barcelona conceded 36 goals. That is 0.95 per game. Same squad, same coach, same system, same season. In Europe, they conceded at nearly double the domestic rate. Understand what that means. This was not a team being outplayed. Barcelona won 7 of those 12 European matches, drew 2 and lost 3. Against Atletico, they went out 3-2 on aggregate, having by the club's own account been the better side across both legs. 0-2 at Camp Nou, 2-1 at the Metropolitano. Eliminated by 1 goal in a tie they largely controlled. So here is the honest reframe. Barcelona did not go out of Europe because they could not create. They went out because there was nothing standing in front of the back line. And look at how that happened, because it was not random. Inigo Martinez, a first-choice centre-back the season before, left for Saudi Arabia in 2025 and was never replaced. Andreas Christensen was unavailable for large parts of the year. Araujo struggled through a difficult personal season. By midway through, Gerard Martin, a left-back from La Masia, had been converted into a centre-back and become Kubasi's most frequent partner. Then there are the red cards. Barcelona picked up 3 in Europe. Araujo was sent off against Chelsea in the league phase. Kubasi was sent off in the first leg against Atletico. Eric Garcia was sent off in the second. The last 2 were near identical incidents. An opponent running through the space behind a very high line, and a defender left with no choice but to foul. That is not a defending problem in the way people mean it. That is a screening problem. The high line was not being broken by beaten defenders. It was being broken by the first pass, and nobody was there to stop the first pass. Which brings us to the second thing everyone is getting wrong. The framing on Rodri is that Barcelona have spent enormous money on a 30-year-old midfielder for a squad that already has Pedri, Gavi, Fermin Lopez, Marc Casado and Dani Olmo. That it is a vanity signing, a trophy from Manchester City, a player bought because he became available rather than because he was needed. He is a Ballon d'Or winner. He won 4 Premier League titles at Manchester City after joining in 2019 and scored the winning goal in the 2023 Champions League final. He won the European Championship with Spain, and this summer he captained them to the World Cup and took the Golden Ball as the tournament's best player. There is no more proven holding midfielder in the game. Now the deal, because the reporting matters. Fabrizio Romano reports City have given the green light. Rodri agreed personal terms weeks earlier, reportedly on a 4-year contract, and made clear he preferred Barcelona over Real Madrid, who were also in the race. He had 1 year left on his City deal, which is why City sold at all. One caveat I am not going to hide. At the time of writing, neither club has officially announced anything. The agreement is reported, not confirmed. Rodri is expected in Catalonia within days and could be presented around the Joan Gamper Trophy against Al Ahly at Camp Nou. But assume it lands. Why does it matter more than a €76.5 million midfielder normally would? Because Flick's Barcelona are built on the most aggressive defensive line in elite football. That is why they have been the most prolific attack in Europe for 2 years, and it is also why they conceded in every European match. A high line is not a setting, it is a bet, and the bet only pays if the opposition is never allowed to play cleanly into the space behind it. Rodri's entire career is that job, reading the pass before it is played, stepping across it, and, when necessary, cynically ending it 40 yards from goal. Barcelona did not sign a midfielder, they signed the missing precondition of their own tactical system. Rodri is 30. A serious knee injury cost him most of 2024 to 25. He had minor back surgery after the World Cup and was left out of City's Community Shield squad while still in rehabilitation. Barcelona are paying a very large fee on a very large salary for a player whose availability is a real question. And there is a deeper tactical question. Rodri's best work came inside a Guardiola possession machine that controlled matches at a deliberate low tempo. Flick's Barcelona play vertically, fast and in transition. Those are not the same job, and that is the biggest question mark over the signing. Let's be straight about the window because it cuts both ways. In, Anthony Gordon from Newcastle for a reported £69 million plus £8.6 million in add-ons on a 5-year deal, Barcelona's biggest single outlay since Frenkie de Jong in 2019. Karim Adeyemi from Dortmund for around €29 million, including add-ons, also on 5 years. Jesse Bisiwu, an 18-year-old winger from Club Brugge for €8.5 million. Joao Cancelo, free, and Rodri, pending. Ferran Torres to Paris Saint-Germain for €50 million. Ronald Araujo to Liverpool on loan with a reported £55 million option. Ter Stegen on loan to Ajax. Ansu Fati to Monaco for €11 million. Inaki Peña to Panathinaikos. Marcus Rashford's loan expired and he returned to Manchester United. The financial context is the part people skip. Barcelona have returned to La Liga's 1-to-1 spending rule, meaning money raised from sales and wages saved can be reinvested directly. That is why a club that spent 6 years unable to register players can suddenly add Gordon, Adeyemi and Rodri in one window. They have signed no striker and no left-footed centre. Julian Alvarez has been the target all summer. He has made his desire to leave Atletico public. Lamine Yamal has spent months openly recruiting him, and reports put the cost near €150 million. Atletico keep blocking negotiations. Meanwhile, Jules Koundé is linked with Arsenal at around €55 million, which would open a third hole rather than fill one. Now the emotional part, and the part everyone leads with. Robert Lewandowski scored 120 goals in 193 games across 4 seasons at Barcelona. Lewandowski was not Barcelona's top scorer. In La Liga, that was Ferran Torres and Lamine Yamal on the 16 each. Across all competitions, it was Yamal on 24. Barcelona scored 95 league goals, 18 more than Real Madrid, and the bulk did not come through the centre-forward at all. Here is the argument almost nobody is making. Flick's attack has never been funneled through a number 9. It generates goals from wide areas, from arriving midfielders, and from a 19-year-old on the right wing, who is now, by common consent, the best player in the world. Gordon scored 17 goals in all competitions last season, more than anyone else at Newcastle. Adeyemi is a left-footed forward who can play wide or centrally. Both replace the volume that is left. The centre-forward remains a real hole, but it is a hole in a team that scored 95 league goals and lost only 6 domestic matches all season. Barcelona are the only club in Europe who lost a generational striker this summer and still start as favourites for their league. Look at what is still in the building, because the obituaries skip this part. Joan Garcia in goal, who conceded 0.70 goals per match last season, the best rate in La Liga, and is a World Cup winner. Pau Cubarsí, Eric Garcia, Jules Koundé and Alejandro Balde in defence with Cancelo added. In midfield, Pedri, Gavi, Fermin Lopez, Marc Casado and Dani Olmo, with Rodri arriving on top. Frenkie de Jong is the significant absence, sidelined with a serious knee injury picked up at the World Cup. In attack, Lamine Yamal, Rafinha, Gordon and Adeyemi, plus whatever the club can still do for a striker before the window shuts on September 1st. And then the context nobody waits properly. Barcelona had 10 players in the World Cup semi-finals, which is why La Liga let them start the season a week late. Spain won it. Joan Garcia, Eric Garcia, Cubarsí, Gavi, Pedri, Olmo, Ferran Torres and Yamal were all part of it, and Ferran scored the winner in the final. Rodri was named player of the tournament. That is not a club in decline. That is the spine of the world champions, plus the best defensive midfielder alive, arriving at the same building in the same fortnight. Here is the argument that separates Barcelona from Real Madrid this season, and almost nobody is making it. Barcelona's home league record last season was 19 wins from 19, 57 points from 57 available at Camp Nou in their first full campaign back in the rebuilt stadium. A perfect home season. Away they took 37 from a possible 57. Every point they dropped on the road. Real Madrid finished 8 points back on 86, sacked Xabi Alonso in January after losing the Supercopa final to Barcelona, went to Álvaro Arbeloa on an interim basis, and have now hired Mourinho, 3 managers in 12 months. Atletico are entering Simeone's 16th consecutive season and finished 4th. Barcelona changed almost nothing. Flick is in his 3rd season with the same core, the same system, and a squad that has just spent a summer winning a World Cup together. The champions kept continuity and added the missing piece. The challenger blew everything up and hired a manager whose first job is teaching a new idea of football from scratch. Here is the counter-argument, stated fairly. Rodri is not signed. Nothing has been officially confirmed. He has had back surgery, has not trained fully and could miss the opening weeks. If his body does not hold, Barcelona have spent enormous money on a 30-year-old and fixed nothing. There is still no striker. Alvarez is reportedly a €150 million problem and Atletico refused to negotiate. Worth noting too that ESPN report Rodri was not a priority at the start of the summer at all. Barcelona only entered the midfield market after de Jong's injury. There is still no left-footed centre-back. Araujo has gone to Liverpool and Koundé is being courted by Arsenal. De Jong and Balde are both unavailable. The opening schedule is unkind. Elche away on 23rd August. Athletic Club at home on 27th August in the rearranged opening fixture, then Rayo at home on 31st August. 3 league matches in 8 days with a squad whose Spanish internationals only reported back on 12th August. The first Clásico is at Camp Nou on 25th October, the Espanyol Derby away on 3rd January, and the return Clásico at the Bernabeu on 9th May, with the season closing on 30th May. And here is the statistic Barcelona fans do not want to hear. Real Madrid conceded fewer league goals than anybody in Spain last season, 35 to Barcelona's 36, while finishing 8 points behind and changing manager twice. Mourinho's whole career is built on making that number smaller. If he simply adds goals to the best defence in the division, that is a title challenge. The market reflects that. Barcelona are around 8 to 11 for the title, an implied chance near 58%. Real Madrid sit close to evens, Atletico a distant 14 to 1. That is favouritism, not conviction. The bookmakers are pricing a 2-horse race, not a coronation. So can Barcelona win the Champions League in 2026 to 27? Nobody can say yes to that with a straight face. It has been 11 years, they have not kept a European clean sheet in over a year, and there is no striker in the building. That is the honest answer. But that is not the interesting question. The interesting question is whether the Barcelona that lost to Atletico is the real one, and the evidence says it is not. The real one won every home league match it played, scored 95 goals, sent 10 players to a World Cup semi-final, and went out of Europe for one diagnosable reason. Nobody was protecting the space behind the highest defensive line in football. They have just spent €76.5 million on the best solution to that exact problem that money can buy. If Rodri arrives fit, if a striker lands before 1st September, and if the clean sheet column stops reading 0, this is a genuine European contender for the first time in a decade, and a terrifying one, because the attack was never the issue. If his back does not hold, if no number 9 arrives, and if they concede in every European game again, they will win La Liga, exit in another quarter-final, and everyone will say exactly the same things next May. Either way, the idea that Barcelona are a flat-track bully with an unfixable ceiling is the laziest read in European football right now. They did not need a rebuild, they needed one player in one position, and they have just gone out and bought him. And by the time the rest of Europe works out what that changes, it may already be too late.